Hello, I'm Lily and welcome to Rising Earth News, where we're telling the amazing stories from people around the world that are helping to shape the future for sustainable living. Coming up today, how can you grow your own forest to combat climate change? Tips from an expert, how can you live a less wasteful life? And we'll check in with the latest updates in renewable energy. First up, we've been speaking to Clare DuBois, who founded Tree Sisters, an organisation that has planted over 11 million trees through reforestation projects around the world in a bid to tackle climate change. Here's Clare to tell you more about the incredible work of Tree Sisters.
We are looking to normalise reciprocity between humanity and nature. So we're essentially asking everybody, instead of just consuming every day, to actually start looking at reallocating funds towards ecological restoration. I mean, there's different things, like soil is an incredible sequesterer, seagrass, mangroves, trees. There are lots of different ways that we can sequester carbon. Trees themselves are massive rain producers for our planet. They are, they're the lungs, I think they're the liver, they're the cleansers, they're the heartbeat of the hydrological system. They actually cause the pumping of the cleansed water that has gone through their own bodies, which is what rain is, a lot of what rain is, around the planet. And we're losing them at a completely staggering rate. I think it's a football pitch every second at this point, which is hard to even fathom. It's between 14 and 14 million trees a day, including now raging fires. I mean, what Australia went through last year, why is it going to be any different this year coming? I live in California. We're on fire every year, when we always used to be, but we've lost forest management the way that the native peoples used to do it. We're trying to basically say, if you're warming the planet, can you cool it down? If you're taking from the planet, can you please give back? Can we start to rebalance in terms of reciprocity by giving a small amount every month, or a large amount if you can? 40p a tree. Why 40p? Why is it so low? Because we're planting in Madagascar, which is incredibly poor, and Mozambique and Cameroon and Kenya, the Amazon rainforest, the Atlantic rainforests of Brazil, West Papua, India, Nepal. These are all places that are denuded in the tropics, that tropical forest belt that we have to preserve, protect, and then restore. Because if we lose the tropical forest belt, which is the cooling mechanism around the hottest part of our planet, Gaia, in her genius, uses the heat of the tropics to be the pump through the trees that actually cools the world. Now, the differential happens because you've got ice and heat. We're losing the ice and we're losing the cooling mechanisms around the waste of our planet. And so that's why our climate is going so completely crazy, because we're destabilizing the mechanisms that she put in place in order to moderate climate. We cannot lose the tropical rainforest. So that's what we're doing. We're basically saying, everybody give a small amount. We'll shove it in the ground in all these different places and we'll watch it grow. And that 40p also, it covers the replanting of any trees that fail due to drought or fire or flooding or disease or predators. Tree Sisters is a balance of inner and outer, the consciousness shift that would allow us to create a restorative culture, and leadership put into active ecological restoration on the ground.
Up next, Lauren's been hearing from Jonathon Levy, better known as the Zero Waste Guy, who tells us a bit about why and how we should limit our waste in our everyday lives.
We humans, we individuals, it's hard to see it, but the way we spend our money matters. There's so many things we can do to support sustainability that also supports equity and makes a profit at the same time. If I'm shifting my money, I'm still spending the money, but I'm shifting it from buying it anonymously online every single month because I'm on some recurring plan, and I shift it to spending it locally on a higher quality product that's going to last longer. It's like that benefits everybody. It benefits the community because I'm supporting local businesses. It benefits the environment because I'm buying a durable, reusable good instead of just like an incoming flow, a never-ending flow of single use. And you know, it's just like that, this idea in sustainability, sustainable business is this balance of people, planet, and profit. So much of the world we interact in focuses on profit as the number one priority, and we don't necessarily care about our employees, the people. We don't care about the communities where we do work. We don't necessarily care about the environment. All we do is we focus on maximizing the profit. And there's so much more that can be done that still makes a profit, but also like supports sustainability and supports equity at the same time. And gosh, I wish we would kind of shift away from consuming just for the sake of consuming and focus more on consuming with intention and purpose, because you can transform someone's life. If you have a small business, a small coffee shop, and you go and support that small coffee shop, you're supporting an individual's livelihood. And yet so many people stand in line to go to Starbucks, to a corporate owned Starbucks, which is shareholder owned. They don't certify their coffee as like organic because, they sell so much of it. Who knows if it's fair trade? They don't even know where it's coming from. Who knows where it's roasted? It's an anonymous transaction. Sure, they offer a lot of jobs, but I'd much rather have 7,000 more independent coffee shops in the United States than 7,000 Starbucks or however many. I don't want to make it about politics, but we're seeing the man who was murdered by the police last week, and within a few days, they had brought charges against the officer. It was manslaughter, which is not a very high charge, but the people spoke. They said that's not acceptable, and it was upgraded to second-degree murder. So this is a perfect example of, it's not related to the environment per se, but it's a perfect example that when the people speak, the politicians listen, the policymakers listen. And really that's the biggest barrier to equity and access and success in sustainability is policy. It's purchasing power, but it's policy. If everyone who went into the largest retailers in America said, we're not going to tolerate everything being wrapped in plastic, they'd stop doing it. But, so they continue wrapped in plastic. So it's a balance. But if we influence a government to say that you can't wrap, this cucumber does not need to be wrapped in plastic. Why is it wrapped in plastic? And they make a policy that says you can't do it anymore, then the business will also do it. So that's why it's a combination of needing good policy, but you also need people who care, because if people don't care, then nothing's going to change. Going zero waste has truly been one of the best things I have done for my mental health, physical health, and financial well-being. It was not always that easy. It was not as straightforward. It was actually probably bad for my mental health originally because I was so overwhelmed, feeling guilty of the times that I had to use single-use plastics, packaging, that I got stuck with it. But, over time, I found a place where I'm really comfortable. I do my best to live as sustainably as possible. I try to only purchase what I need when I need it. I try to use up the things I already have. I strive to be as package-free as possible, which has sent me more towards the produce and the veggies. I am absolutely spending less money, even though I shifted towards the higher cost products like produce, fruit, all that stuff, for whatever reason, is more expensive than the packaged and processed food. But I swear, when you nourish your body, you don't need to eat as much food. When you eat the right things, you literally don't need to eat as much. And when you nourish your body, it makes it easier to exercise. I feel like I have much more confidence in myself. I have higher self-esteem. I have all these benefits. And the number one thing I did was I stopped spending money indiscriminately on stuff.
Thanks, Nadia. And now I'll pass on to Clare Nasir, who brings you this month's Renewable Energy Report.
So, for your latest renewable energy newsflash, I'm excited to announce that since April, the UK's electricity system has run without coal-fired power for about 54 consecutive days. A collapse of energy demand in the UK caused by the coronavirus lockdown and 2 extremely sunny bank holidays in a fortnight has helped power the country with solar and wind generation. Great Britain's incredible coal-free run has continued through May, giving us the first full calendar month of electricity generation without coal since the Industrial Revolution. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, Costa Rica is almost at 100% renewables and has committed to becoming 100% carbon neutral by the end of this year. An abundance of free-flowing water helps Costa Rica generate more than 78% of its electricity with hydropower. But it has also invested in wind turbines and geothermal energy due to its many volcanic areas. Last year, 99.62% of its electricity came from renewable sources, and for its small population of less than 5 million, it is considering initiatives to boost the uptake of electric vehicles in the country. Governments around the world are also realising the crucial role solar power has to play, providing stable and reliable electricity in the healthcare industry. Countries across Africa, the Arab states, and Central Asia have joined the United Nations Development Programme's Solar for Health initiative, which is improving electrification rates, reducing reliance on expensive diesel generators, whilst also reducing emissions. One success story is Zambia's National Medical Warehouse, which now has solar panels on the roof covering roughly the size of a football pitch. The solar provides uninterrupted power for the refrigeration of life-saving medicines and vaccines. In news on the economy, clean energy stocks are leading the energy market recovery. The COVID-19 pandemic has hit every part of the energy industry, but investments in renewables have outperformed the broader market since US stocks cratered in March. This has been a common trend over the past 10 years, but COVID-19 has created much more uncertainty around the oil and gas industry, as renewable energy has proved to be the most resilient energy source during the crisis. Considering that the pandemic might result in lasting changes in consumer behaviour and lifestyles, is also a notion that some of the largest fossil fuel players are taking into account for their post-pandemic economic plans. And finally, for transport news, forecasts expect over 1 million electric vehicles to be sold in Europe alone next year. The rise of affordable electric cars is driven by EU law and achievable based on car makers' latest production plans, although in the UK, EV sales have even proven resilient in comparison to their diesel and petrol counterparts throughout the pandemic. Boosting EV sales is the most future-proof business strategy, and the one chosen by key European car brands for the upcoming year. That's all for Rising Earth Renewables. Now back to Lily.
Thanks, Claire. Today we've heard from 3 amazing individuals about ways you can start living more sustainably right now. Let's break them down. Head to treesisters.org to start planting trees now. You can give a one-time donation or become a monthly donor. They also have some great resources for inner work, including courses and free meditations to help reconnect with yourself and with nature. Say no to waste. Avoid supermarkets and shop local to save on plastic and save the planet. Following the tragic murder of George Floyd and the prevalence of systematic racism it's highlighted, this month we also want to draw your attention to some of the ways in which you can help support the Black Lives Matter movement. We've put links to resources for non-black people to better educate yourselves on this subject in the description box below, links to campaigns to sign, and we also want to steer you towards Act Blue, a website that allows you to split your donation between 37 bail funds that use donations to prevent incarceration and combat racial economic disparities in the bail system. We also want to remind everyone that the climate crisis disproportionately affects people of colour. These are not separate issues, and we should all be working to tackle all of the world's injustices and crises together. Thank you for watching Rising Earth News. Subscribe to our channel for more eco news and keep an eye out for the full interviews which will be released in the coming weeks. We'd love to hear how you are helping us create a more sustainable future during your time in lockdown. Tweet, Instagram or Facebook us at Rising Earth News and leave us a comment below. Stay safe, stay green and be a part of the age of restoration.